Welcome back to the Finding Strength podcast. Here today we have actually a really special guest near and dear to my heart. Is my breathwork teacher, or what do you like to be called? Like, do you like teacher? Is that like thing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Definitely.
Yeah, but
Guru? Would guru work?
No.
Too much? Too much. All right.
Stories about gurus.
Yeah, we don't like
Get
gurus.
down, not guru.
But yeah, we have Abbey Daw here, who is my breathwork coach, and I'm really excited to have you on because I mean, like, you've changed my life in the last year. So I'm like, I have to get Abbey on here, and so other people can hear your story and hopefully, check out our breathwork class because it's amazing. But yeah, and you don't know Abbey, so this is gonna be really cool.
No, I don't know.
Because then you can help
I know
ask
of Abbey.
Questions.
Because around our house, Abby's like freaking famous, man.
Everyone
Gosh, I
knows
feel so
Monday
good.
nights.
I should come here all the time.
Yeah.
Monday nights when 7:30 is it 7:30?
7:30
Yeah,
tonight.
I'm like 7:30. I'm like, everyone leave me alone.
And the kids are like, now I need you, Mom.
Yeah, I know.
I
Oh
know.
my gosh, it's I forgot to lock the door 2 weeks ago,
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
Liam
funny.
came in the room, and I think it was when we were on our retention breath,
Oh,
and he turns on the lights, and I'm like,
holding your breath.
oh, I was holding my breath, and I pop up really fast, and I look over, and he's like, I just have to charge my iPad, and I'm like, get out! I'm like, I felt like he was intruding on something so intimate.
He was. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
I love
but I'm really excited to have you on here.
Thanks,
And,
guys. I
yeah.
feel really happy to be here. So,
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
stoked to have you.
Yeah,
This is
that's
great.
good. So,
thank you.
but honestly, we'll just kind of start. Where are you from? I don't even know. Are you from Utah?
Yeah, I get
Okay.
asked that a lot for some reasons.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't give out the vibe.
Which is awesome.
I'm from Utah. Yeah, born and raised in Utah. We lived, over the, we lived in Europe. So,
Oh, okay.
for a year when I was 6. But other than that, and I went to college in Hawaii. But that's it. I've lived in Utah my whole life.
That's awesome. Where city wise?
In Europe?
No, here in Utah.
Oh,
What,
I grew up
county?
in Draper.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
And then I've been in Salt Lake, Sugar House area for since 2010. So 20
Okay.
or 14 years. That's crazy.
That's
Oh
right.
my gosh, that is rad. I would love to live in Draper.
Draper? You
Sugar
want to live in
House.
Draper?
I don't know. I just want to get out of Lehigh.
Oh, yeah. I like living in Salt Lake.
I would, yeah, Salt Lake would be fun. I
Yeah.
especially in that Sugar House area where we do breath work at
Mm-hmm.
What's Her Face's house. So
Yeah,
awesome. It's
I
beautiful
just-
up there.
I love the vibe, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So, kind of background story, your origin story, what got you, give us the background of Abbey Daw and how you
Okay.
got to
Who is
breathwork.
Abbey Daw?
Yeah, who is Abbey Daw?
Why is Abbey Daw? When is just...
I hate saying this, but I felt when the family that I was born into, bless their hearts, I love them all, but I just felt very misunderstood as a kid. And I felt like I was born a seeker. I always remembered being this just young, the earliest memories of my life, I've been a seeker. I felt like I had this invisible connection to something that was why can't other people feel this? I just felt so misunderstood in it. And so it just kind of, I've always been curious. I've always been a seeker. I've always
What do you
wanted
mean by
to,
seeker? Sorry, that's just such a cool word to use. What do you
seeking
Just
for
describe that.
answers
Oh, okay.
for why I felt the way I felt. I didn't always buy the narrative of the world. Does that make sense?
And you
Totally.
felt a lot,
I
probably.
resonate with that a lot.
Yeah.
I just felt like I was tiptoeing. I was a visitor or something. And people are like, oh my gosh, this girl. But no, I just felt like something was people weren't hearing when you have a good ear for music.
Yeah.
And it's you hear something underneath the music.
Yes.
Kind of what I can describe it
Yeah.
as.
I love
I love that. Yeah. I feel like that's you. You're kind of a
Probably.
seeker.
Well,
Like,
knowledge. The more, just I don't know.
Highly
take it all in.
sensitive person.
Definitely.
Yes.
That's all it really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it feels for me, it felt like kind of a drag as a kid, kind of out of place,
Misunderstood.
Misunderstood.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just weird was a word that was used a lot.
Crazy, weird.
And I tried to hide that a lot as a kid and try to put up a facade or try and fit in, but it always just kind of felt out of place.
Yeah, I'd always feel like I was having this different narrative inside myself than I think other kids were having at my age. I just felt that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I grew up in a very religious household. and it wrecked me because it was crazy. I just started questioning my sexuality not because I was having these sexual feelings about the same sex. It was that I just felt an undertone of something was off. Like I didn't want to go to school dances. I didn't want to talk about my marriage one day and what my wedding day would look like. I just felt so like, why are we having these conversations? I just always felt awkward. So I became more of a seeker in my early teens, probably more like 11 and 12. And I became an athlete. So I ran multiple marathons. I felt like it was just the only way to my own sanity because it quieted the voices. And so my dad was a marathon runner and I got really good at it and traveled the country running marathons. And then it burned me out eventually. And, I still felt super inflamed and depleted and questioning. And meanwhile, graduated from high school. One of my first jobs was actually a group fitness instructor at a local gym because I was so good at running. And my neighbor was like, well, I teach this one class and you should come sub for me. And I'm like, I have no idea how to sub a class, but her name was Whitney and I credit her to this day for starting my teaching journey. So
That's cool.
I got a quick drive-through certification and started teaching at the gym. And immediately people were drawn to my classes. I had wait lists, and not because I was doing anything different than someone else, as far as movement, but I was connecting to them deeper and they felt my story was coming out without me actually saying my story. And so I started getting passed down into these different, if you want to use the word gurus, but these women mentors started taking me under their wing and they're like, well, you're really good and I want to develop you kind of thing.
That's awesome.
And that was my first class that I taught was in 2003. And I just started working in the gym industry and working with higher up corporate, Lifetime Fitness eventually. And then I started traveling with Lifetime Fitness corporate. And then I started.
Can I interrupt you for a sec?
Yeah, please. Anytime.
How did that make you feel to have someone see you and be like, I want to help develop you, and really see that you were doing something different? Because your whole growing up, right? You didn't feel like you fit in and you were seeking and stuff like that. And then finally someone's like, you're a great teacher.
It was magic.
Yeah.
It was magical, but they didn't actually even say that to me. They just started doing that.
Okay.
I think I was too naive or something to even recognize it was happening. But then as I got later in my career, I'm like, wow, I was really taken in, given opportunities that other instructors weren't getting. And it was really cool for my career because it gave me a lot more of I was taken seriously. So, and then I was working for Lifetime Fitness and I didn't like the corporate world really after a while in the gym industry. And I wanted more. Such as someone, you probably get really bored in your life eventually if you're not being challenged in something.
Yes.
Got to mix it up. Yeah.
Got to mix it up.
Yeah.
So I started training for an Ironman and
that's one way to mix it up. It's I'm going to go run an Ironman.
Ironman.
I was addicted to the finish lines, man. Yeah. So the marathon running got boring after a while.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Naturally.
Ironman.
An Ironman, remind me what that is. Remind me all the things that you're doing as an Ironman.
It's a 3.5 miles. No, it's a 2.1 mile swim.
Okay, so it's the swim and the bike and the running.
And then the marathon's a full marathon.
Okay.
And then the bike is a century or something.
It's 120 or
something like that.
Yeah, so
that
it's
is
swim,
gnarly.
bike, run.
In one day. Well, and meanwhile, I had already done road races on my bike.
Okay.
So I was doing the Logan to Jackson race. That's 200 in a day. So I'm what's next?
Yeah.
I was but I didn't realize at the time that I was just addicted to that feeling of endorphins when everything's okay when you're done with it.
Yes.
It's numbing all of the highly sensitive stuff going on inside.
Yep.
You really think that? You think that it was doing it in that?
I was running away from the sexual identity and what could be if that really happened. And because as somebody who grows up in a religion that's just spoon fed to you that you have to be a certain way. So,
yeah, that's so interesting. It always fascinates me how nuanced and different and creative we are with our running away from
We're
habits.
so good at it. I don't even think we realize we're doing it.
I was just gonna say that.
It's like spiritual bypassing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's why I'm so against it as a teacher. I'm like, please,
Yeah.
like, let's stay here. You
Yeah.
know, feel our feelings.
Yeah.
Not feel them too
Good and
long
bad.
where you're
Yeah.
stuck, but feel them
Sure.
for a moment.
Yeah.
Sure, allow them to teach you something, you know?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
put your phone down for a sec and just let's close our eyes. and
Well, and
feel
discipline's
what's-
important, right? And run and exercise and fitness.
It was
and all
better
that
than
stuff. It's
picking up
really
like
important.
a drug
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
It was a drug, but it wasn't, hurting me. I mean, it was, but not at the
But
same
not
time.
like
How-
physically
hurting you
changing
how?
it.
I think our bodies, what I've learned as an athlete, we're not meant to do stuff over extreme like that. I don't think we're made for that. And so I think after a while, it ages your insides. If you overdo it like that, you become inflamed. I mean, if you were to look at, and I mean, I love athletes. Don't get me
Sure,
wrong;
sure,
it's
sure.
amazing. But if I were to keep doing that for the rest of my life, I feel like if you were to look at my insides, they're inflamed from all of that. We need to rest more than we think.
Yeah.
It takes a hit for sure.
Oh, yeah.
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 Well, and I think
Athletes
you can,
age fast,
Yes.
kind
Yeah.
They
of.
do. Well, and they're really prone to other problems.
They are.
Think about all these guys who are these crazy, super gnarly athletes, and they get done athleting, and then they're like, "What's next?
All of
Gambling,
them.
or whatever." It's wild because there is this like weird, like maybe not weird, but there's this very predictable, addictive component to not feeling.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
And we find many different mechanisms to do that whole not feeling thing, or maybe even less not feeling, but more control my feeling. And I'll go to extreme lengths to control the feeling.
So will I.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, I did. I ran
Yeah.
an Ironman.
I would call myself a control freak at
Sure,
times.
sure.
I mean, that's
Oh, yeah.
okay. I think
Yes.
a lot of
I think
people
we
are.
all have that. Yeah.
It's like a safety thing for me, and I think for a lot of people. Because I never was safe growing up.
There you go.
So
And
I
safety is
had
a big thing,
It's the
especially
thing.
for,
That's why I became a people pleaser,
Yep.
but recovering people pleaser. I wanted to please my family by crossing the finish lines because my dad was really proud of me, and I wanted my dad, because I mean, I couldn't make God proud of me. So
Yeah.
I wanted to make my dad proud of me. He was like the closest to God as you could get. So I just got addicted to all that. And like all my family at the end, just seeing how they look at me when I'd cross over a really intense finish line. But
Underneath it all.
it was just this broken, misunderstood, numbed out.
They can't see me for who I really am.
Yeah.
I got to be
It was
seen
just a
this way.
facade,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I built a major facade and wall around me where no one could get in, which is why I didn't date that much. I just gave off that vibe. Like, don't get near me.
Yeah.
I wanted to be celebrated. So that's the closest to being celebrated. And I thought maybe if I made my dad proud, maybe one day I'd make God proud. So I did all that, and I was a really great instructor. High in my career, actually, I had like 80 people that started coming to I was teaching yoga at the time. It was a fusion yoga class. I had gotten, certified in yoga. I got certified in everything. But I started teaching yoga, and people would literally line up at the studio. And I'm not joking when they say there was a line wrapped around 2 studios waiting to get into my Monday night class. And then I taught a Sunday class. And then the main instructor, again, came up to me and she was like, okay, so I think you should do a more in-depth yoga training because you've got something with yoga. And so I, of course, listened to her advice. She was the one mentor that she wanted me to fly. She wasn't like putting her thumb down on my power. Casey Dunfield, Lifetime Fitness, I'm going to shout her out. She was one of the best bosses I've ever had in this industry, because a lot of people are competing and their egos are freaking enlarged. But anyway, so she's like, if you do it, and meanwhile I'm training for this Ironman, she's like, if you do this teacher training, I'll do it with you. It's down in Salt Lake. It's a really amazing one. She's one of I knew who she was, the person that developed this training. She she was one of the founders of Power Yoga, where it originated in San Francisco, actually, when it became westernized. But I was like, okay, I've always wanted to do that. I actually did vision boards as a young girl, like always wanting to own my own yoga studio as soon as because I found yoga probably in 99 and I started doing it with my aunt.
Oh, cool.
And it felt like home every time. I don't know. It was just amazing. And so, but I never thought I could be a yoga teacher, which is really odd. I never thought I could be that yoga teacher. Yeah. But then when she believed in me and was like, no, you need to really get because I was teaching a form of yoga that wasn't like total vinyasa traditional yoga. And so I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. So I started this teacher training in 2009. It was the winter of 2009. And I was trying to train for this Ironman at the same time. And everything I was just like starting to really lose it. Like I couldn't juggle it anymore. I was trying to do that. And I was trying to do really well in this training. And I was trying to teach like a trillion classes a week at the gym. I was teaching like 3 a day. Oh, wow. And I was just tired. And I remember one of my training runs, it was around New Year's on 2009. And I was running in Draper on a lap of my 7-mile run that week. And I just remember I was like literally going so slow I could have ran backwards at this point. Oh. And it was windy. And I had just started this teacher training. And I was about the Ironman was going to be in May. And I just remember stopping. I go home. I walked the rest of the way home. I think I called my mom. I'm like, just come get me. And I never do that. I would never do that. She's like, what's going on with you? And I go, I just can't do this anymore. And I just broke out into tears. And that was like the beginning, honestly. And she already knew I was struggling with my sexuality. She was the only one that I told. Okay. I told my therapist when I was 11 that I could be gay. And he was like, no, you're not gay. Like, this is just an adolescent thing you're going. He was gaslighting me, basically. And then put me on Prozac. And then he told me it would go away, but it never went away. So,
smooth move, therapist guy.
Oh, that just makes me want to hug your 11-year-old
He gaslit me at 11 years old. Like,
so young.
He told me what I wanted to hear, but then it confused me.
Yeah.
And then my mom would always say, like, because she knew I had such bad anxiety and she knew what it was about and she would just try to help. Yeah. And my mom's amazing, but she still told me what I wanted to hear too. Yeah. And she only knew what she could do at that time. But anyways, so I ended up actually quitting the Ironman. And I actually am so proud of myself for doing that because I never quit anything. And I just that was like the beginning. Yeah. And then I jumped head first into this training downtown.
Can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
Rewind. You're proud of yourself for quitting something? Help me understand that.
I love that.
Because it was not an authentic pursuit. It was just me trying to cover up all of this stuff. I broke in that moment.
That gave me chills.
I just broke.
Yeah.
I remember where I was on my run. There was a school bus going by. It was windy and these kids were hanging out the window and waving at me. And I just was done.
You're like, I can't run from this anymore.
Yeah. And I couldn't even tell you, I wasn't even aware that I was still running from that. I was just done.
Yeah.
Done.
From pleasing everyone and wanting to please my athletic community. And I was an instructor that was at the top of my game and everyone was excited for me to do the Ironman. I just think I created this desire for something that I don't think I really wanted.
Do you think you were pleasing
I was
all these other people?
Keep my I wanted to be validated.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't being validated by God, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and we as human beings ignore our innate desire to develop an identity.
Yeah.
We really do. And we do a lot of stuff to kind of not develop this identity, but still have this sense of who I am based off of how other people see me.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And that moment of reckoning with who I really am and what I'm really doing and why I'm really doing it is pivotal for people. I mean, there's a colloquial term we use for this called the midlife crisis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all, you in your 20s and 30s, get ready. It's coming. Because there's this moment.
If you haven't hit it yet, then yes, it's coming.
But it's a natural developmental process where we have to ask ourselves big questions because you're you're brought face to face with reality. And the reality is like this whole thing we're doing is quite temporary. and you get to the, so to speak, point where I can see the finish line, AKA death or some equivalency of it, and go, that's not that far away. It's not as far away as I thought it was. It's actually more real than I thought it was. What am I going to do between now and then? I'm kind of tired of living for other people. I'm kind of tired of neglecting self and who I am and what it means to be me. Maybe I could explore that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that means we quit an Ironman.
Yes.
Yeah,
Which is awesome.
I was, because I had run Boston Marathon. I ran the New York City Marathon.
Yeah.
I was just an achiever. I didn't want to give up, but there was something in me that day that was just, I didn't give up that day when I came home from the run. I think I had my first, I was deteriorating. I'm done today type of thing.
Sure.
And then I remember I went to the gym on New Year's Eve, 2009 to train. And I was doing these sprints on the treadmill. It was an open gym for 24 hours. So I could have, everyone's celebrating the new year. And I remember just the only one there running these splits on the treadmill. And I was I stopped the treadmill. And I'm I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Good. And I went home. And that's when I told my, everyone. Yeah. And everyone's oh, great. Good for you. No one cares the way you think,
It's so true. Yeah.
So then that new year, 2010, like I said, I jumped into the training. And man, that community embraced me. And
the yoga training.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And I just felt at home when I walked in, because it was just a different kind of vibe. And it wasn't something I could ever explain. But then walks in the guru, who then developed me. Mm-hmm. She had never had turnover. It was at a very prestigious yoga studio. Yoga's changed since COVID. There's not as much, you can't just go to, I don't know. The studios aren't as good anymore, and lots has changed in the yoga world. But this was at the time a huge community, and I had this dream. I want to work there. I want to work for her. And I was already practicing manifesting. I was writing down in my journal, this is what I want my life to feel like and be like. And it all actually happened. And when I told her I wasn't doing the Ironman, she's you'll always be an Ironman in my heart. I want you to come to my retreat and help lead it. And well, that was love bombing now that I look back, because I ended up getting severely abused by this woman. So that entered my very first narcissistic abusive relationship, where there would be horrible shaming, but then I'm giving you all the opportunity. You owe me, just very, very bad. Yeah. I'm writing a book on this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. My book's coming out soon, guys.
That's
so,
fantastic. So you go into this yoga world.
And it saved me.
Sure. It saved you.
And then there's this
woman,
predatory person.
Yeah.
Very predatory.
At the pinnacle of it, who's using power to take advantage of.
Totally. Said the right things, was charismatic. Yeah. Honestly, I think I fell in love with her too.
That's what she probably wanted, though.
Sure.
I think she was really, well, maybe not the first woman I fell in love with, but the first woman I think I admitted that I fell in love with. She was powerful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. People can be. They
People
can
were
use that in their
bowing
power.
down at her when you'd walk into the studio. Not for reals, but jokingly. She loved it. And she had a clique of people that if you got into that clique, you were cool. You know?
Yep.
Oh, no.
So I went from one drug to another drug, if it makes sense. Yeah. Addicted to pleasing this woman and showing her I can juggle all these. I wanted to be validated by this new god, this new human.
Yep.
Yeah, that innate desire to be validated runs so deep in us, doesn't it?
Oh, so deep.
That external validation thing is huge.
Yeah.
Because innately, as a little kiddo, right, you're looking to your gods, your mom and dad, and you're like, hey, just love me. Tell me I'm doing good. Tell me.
I wanted that so bad as a kid.
And when you don't get it as a little kid, you look all over the place for it.
Well, and when you're learning about it too, you're taught as a young age and, growing up in a religious background, Jesus loves everyone. You're hearing this all the time. And it's well, okay, then why am I not being loved for me? Yeah. It's I don't understand.
He loves everyone conditionally.
Yeah.
It was so bad for me. My mom still actually kind of shed some tears about it every once in a while because she just was like, I wish I would have done things differently just with you.
Yeah.
But I'm like, Mom, I'm not a victim. I'm the teacher I am today because of this,
Right.
you know.
For sure.
And you can relate
for
to
sure.
the other people who've been through similar things.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
not unique to just this part of the world either. I mean, it's all over the place.
I was probably a victim for a while, but now that I'm matured, I can like, okay.
Maybe victimized, but didn't ever, and maybe thought you were a victim, but now that you've made it through it, you look back.
I'm like, wow, this was all supposed to happen for my life. I'm always meant to be this teacher of self. Like, let's come back to self. I think that's what my message is like my mission. Remember who you are.
Yeah.
Before the world gets to you, you know?
There's this awesome Sadhguru quote thing. I'm sure you know Sadhguru, right?
Yeah.
And he talks about, so he's on a podcast and somebody asks him about trauma. I think we've even mentioned this on the show before. Someone asked him about trauma because trauma's got this buzzword right now, kind of, and it's a little bit misunderstood, and people use trauma to extreme lengths to justify their own shitty behavior, essentially. And Sadhguru, right, with this incredibly wise, profound view in like this little tiny sentence summarizes it perfectly. He says, trauma is an opportunity. It's this moment in your life where you get you have a choice to become wise or to remain wounded.
So
That's
good.
it. That's it.
I
And I
love
just,
it.
woo! I heard that first time. I get chills every time I think about it.
Can you do it with the accent?
No, I don't want to.
I love that.
But wise
That
or
is
wounded, right?
beautiful.
And it's
Yeah.
really victim, right?
Yeah.
Wounded is remain in this victim state where I'm being acted upon and these things are happening to me and I can't really do anything about it because inherently I believe that I am weak. And I need other people to pull me out of it. I need all this stuff around me externally in order for me to be okay. But the wise person knows that, you're born with everything you need. You have it within you. It's this innate ability to grow and to survive, but more importantly, to learn and to contribute to the world around us that makes us truly beautiful as humans.
Well, and this is happening for you, right?
I agree.
Yeah. So what happens after you
So
do
that
your
was
yoga?
that was a 6-year dance.
Wow.
I mean, she fell in love with me.
Yeah.
She probably would never admit that to this day, but I was as close to this human as you could possibly be without the romance. But it was again, like she was another form of God for me to please every single day of my life. And then I got in a car accident in 2014. And I still had this dream of wanting to open my own yoga studio in the back of my brain, but I didn't want to leave her, because I was so intertwined with this guru. Because I made it into the cool pack. I was actually her executive assistant. I ran her money. I ran her training. She did trainings with me. She really developed me. I still credit a lot. She was an amazing teacher. She just was very wounded.
Yeah.
And, but I still was like, gosh, man, my dream still exists inside of me. And one thing I love about myself is I always end up following my heart. It might take a while, but I don't let myself down in the end.
I love that. One thing I love
about me.
myself.
This is why I love Abby's classes because you teach
I figured
us
it out eventually.
You teach us to love ourselves.
Yeah.
And through the process, it's so amazing because I've started recording myself at the end of our breathwork classes and stuff like that. And I record my thoughts of the class.
That's really cool.
And the last few, I just have looked in my camera and just been like, I love you. I love you, Brindy. You are incredible.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah. And you have created that for me and it's been so awesome. So I love that you say that about you too, because you don't just preach it, you also live it. And I think that's why you're such a good teacher because you're also living it too. And we, as your students, can see that. And we know that the potential is there for ourselves. And it's really awesome.
Go ahead.
Well, selfishly, and this may be premature. I mean, we're 30 minutes into the podcast or so. But I wanted to, maybe I should say this for later, but too late. I wanted to meet you to say thank you.
That makes me so happy.
Because she has benefited immensely from her time
I don't
with
get to
you.
hear this that much. So
Well,
it helps me.
I'm the same boat, right? Like,
Yeah, as a therapist. Yeah.
we're healers, right? And I love
Yeah.
meeting fellow healers, and as
It's a
healers,
lonely road sometimes.
it is.
Yeah.
It's dark. It's scary. And as a healer, we want to see the good in people, right? And I've had mentors who freaking fuck me over bad.
You mostly learn not what to do, honestly.
Right. And there's
it's
this
a good thing. Yeah.
but
And I
along-
never wanted to be that mentor, though.
Yeah.
No, and that's what I learned, right? As I was like, okay, this guy who I emulated, right? And I look at him and I'm like, I want to be like this dude. Teach me all your ways. And then all of a sudden there's this moment of intense betrayal. And you're just like, what the heck? Where is this coming from? I
know, you
completely
give 'em-
misread you.
Yeah.
Okay. What don't I know? That's one of my favorites, right?
Yeah.
What don't I know? What am I unaware of? Because I know I don't know some stuff, but realizing that I don't even know what I don't yet know, man, that's powerful.
I know.
And
It keeps you going.
It does. And it's this curiosity thing that sounds like you had since this little kiddo
Little kid,
person.
yeah.
It's like, little
but-
voice that just was
and-
muffled, but I
But it's
always
also
listened to
this
it.
little double-edged sword thing where maybe we're a little too trusting.
Oh, yeah.
And
Loyal to a fault for
loyal
me.
to a fault. She says about me all the time. And watching her go to your
Probably soul
classes.
twins.
Maybe.
Probably,
Who
seriously,
knows?
yeah.
I don't know.
Just kidding.
Healers, man.
I know.
They're amazing people,
Yeah.
right? And learning from them is great. But to be able to, and this is the scary part. I heard you talking about this yoga guru person, and I'm like, I know exactly this type of person.
They're
Sensitive,
so beautiful on the outside.
charismatic,
Yeah.
So attractive.
so attractive, right? And you
Fun.
look at them and you want to be like them, you want to hang out with them, and they have this great vibe and this great energy, but it's kind of
It's a red flag, honestly.
too
Walking red
much.
flag.
You're like, is this person too good to be true?
Is it real?
But you're like, no, they're so cool. I don't want to even ask that question. I just want to be near them. And then,
And I didn't have I
Yeah.
think we weren't educated back then. This
No.
was like early
Yeah.
2000s. Like these terms weren't really coming out. Like
Mental health is not what it was
No,
today.
it's
like
Well,
what the
even
signs,
5
red
years ago.
flags are of people.
Sure.
Like I was so naive and innocent coming out of being in a religious and then leaving that in 2000. Anyway, so
Yeah.
she actually helped me leave the church and we left together. I mean, still I credit her a lot for a lot of things, but in the end, I put her on this pedestal and everyone did. And you should never do that because they're going to knock themselves off eventually. But, so I wanted to open my own yoga studio and she like would say she was happy for me, but then like I knew she wasn't, obviously, because she had her own yoga studio and she didn't want to lose me, but she then fired me and that's fine. And then I got in a car accident on Thanksgiving 2014 and I was trying to open my own studio. I actually wrote an award-winning business plan for it. It was called Sweat and Soul. I got awarded through Salt Lake City Women's Business Center. I won Entrepreneur of the Year for it.
That's cool.
And that was huge for me. I'd never been
Sure.
honored for that. I
Yeah,
never had written and I funded it, but then I got in this car accident and the guru came back because they don't have boundaries. And she was like, hey, well, yeah, I know you just had this. I was vulnerable. I know you have this yoga studio, but I'm sorry about what happened and come back. So I went back and this was about 2 years and the abuse got worse and worse and worse from behind the scenes. No one really knew what was happening, but a few of my colleagues started to pick up on it and they're like, this is just an odd dynamic. And then in 2016, it was July 16th, all of us walked out.
Wow.
We had a mass walkout.
Good
They all
for
walked out because of me.
you.
And I was the last one to walk out because I was too scared to leave her. It was in the Salt Lake Tribune. It was all over the news, actually, believe it or not. And it's now taken me. So that kind of, at that point when I walked out, because I mean, there was so much that happened, it took a lot of courage for me to walk out.
Heck yeah.
One of my colleagues, he said to me over the phone, it was like really late in the night. He's like, Abby, I know what you've been going through. If I just take your hand like a brother would, will you just jump with me? And I was like,
people are good.
I did. I jumped with them. And the last time I talked to the guru was that at midnight that night, they all left. I was actually at Deer Valley at a concert when they all left. So I left last. But anyways, she just was like, give me all my passwords and hung up on me. And I didn't actually betray her in the way everyone else did. I was willing to still work with the guru and go to therapy with her. But then anyways, it all ended up where I left. And then I lost a lot of clientele because I had to put my shit slicker on because she had talked everyone to believing that she was the victim, because as they do. And a lot of my clientele just plummeted because I shared with her clients. I taught all of her classes. So then I went back to corporate America. I didn't want to be where I was, but as you do, you just kind of find another option for a while. And I felt like we just all got on this freedom rider bus, all of 17 of us, and just chose us finally. And that was some of the hardest, darkest times of my life beyond the sexuality stuff. You know, meanwhile, I had come out of the closet because of the community was embraced me, whatever. I had already had all of that was sorted out. But long story short, in corporate America, I met somebody, got married too fast, had a baby. I was the carrier. It was a beautiful experience. Love my daughter. She's turning 6 this summer. Love her so much. She changed my life. But I developed severe postpartum anxiety. And that was, that was rough. And I couldn't access my yoga tools. I mean, I'd been teaching at this point so many years. I mean, I was, almost a 20-year mark. I knew a lot about yoga, but none of it was working anymore. So it was beginning of COVID. I hadn't been laid off yet. I mean, I'm this entrepreneur. My previous yoga studio had failed. As you know, I left it. And then I was trying to start another business, but then it was this events business. And it was going to be launched on April 30th, 2020. And then it's called For Her Dream. It's actually still the name of my business. My LLC is For Her Dream. But I had my last rehearsal for this event we were going to do, women telling their shame stories in a beautiful artistic way. And then the COVID pandemic hit and I lost like $10,000 investment in my business. And I just postpartum anxiety, going through a divorce. Another dark night of the soul happening again. And I'm like, when am I just going to have a moment to like, please
just breathe. I just want to breathe.
This has been really hard. And so someone said about me recently, the thing I love about you, Abby, is you just get back up. And I got back up and I got laid off from my job as 118 others in my corporate position, which I was standing in my kitchen the morning after I got laid off. I had just gotten my apartment after my divorce. I couldn't barely afford it at the time as was, but then I lose my job. But anyways, we all know how the pandemic went. I got unemployment. And then I was like in the kitchen the next day and I had this voice say, this is your time. Go start your business. And I'm like, I don't know what business to start. And then I got into breathwork at that time. Someone led me to a woman named Gabby Bernstein. I don't know if you've heard of her. I started doing this one breath every day and I committed to it for 180 days straight. And that's when the sun started to shine in my brain again. And I was like, whoa, there's something to this. Like my postpartum was going away. I was fit. I was getting healthy. I was motivated. I was shining from the inside to outside. And so that pandemic hit. And then by that summer, I told my family, I'm like, I'm getting off unemployment. I don't know what's happening, but I'm not going to report to the government anymore. I'm going to start this dang business. And I followed the promptings of like my intuition and started a breath course. And that's kind of like it. Like I started this breath course and all these women flocked to it. Like I said, I didn't ask for only women, but it was only women. And they started repeating this course over and over and over again. So I'm like, well, if they're repeating this course, then I have to create like the membership subscription, which is what it did. And then, here I am today. And I ended up getting more deeply educated in breath, obviously, and want to be the best in what I do. And then meanwhile, I'm terribly scared of being a narcissistic guru. So which is why I'm leading from this place of like, I am not going to hold all the answers. You have them inside of you. And I think that's what sets me apart because I don't want people to spiritually bypass. I try to keep people, come on guys, like we gotta like, I don't know. I feel like my prescription is what I call it is much different than what's out there.
Yeah.
And now I'm working with a bunch of world-class musicians mostly, and then people that have chronic disease, and then women just in my community.
So you're saying that breath work can help with chronic disease?
Oh yeah.
How?
Because I like Dr. Joe Dispenza, I know you like him a lot. I believe we can heal ourselves. So
You mean I don't need like a guy with a medical degree to tell me what to do and give me a bunch of pills? I can just breathe?
yeah, you can just breathe
That's
because the science around breath is so
incredible.
fascinating,
It is.
and the molecules it releases in your body, and just what I've taught about like why we do breath retention and why we do intentionally hyperventilate and what that actually does for our tissues. And just by how powerful our brain is, if we can think our way into sickness, then we can think our way into health. Like,
Absolutely.
we can meditate either direction.
I like to think that the hardware that our brains runs on, or excuse me, the software that our brain runs on, because the brain is the hardware and it's got software. And I put in that software every day.
Yeah.
I'm putting in, like, we used to have those floppy disks you put in and it would run off the disk, right? Like that's my perspective.
What am I
and
gonna
how
put in
I
it
see
today?
myself, how I see myself in relation to the world, how I see myself in relation to the people around me. And that software runs the hardware that is my system. And what's really amazing about breath work is you can use breath work to alter the hardware.
Totally. Like tapping into this invisible space of where you manipulate matter and really create. I mean, I've had jaw-dropping things come into my life since I'm doing breath. Like I can't even explain how they came because it's magic.
It really
It's
is.
really cool because and from like a weird nerdy science perspective, right? The brain and the body, right? The mind and the body, we'll say, because the brain is kind of a part of the function of the body, but the mind itself and the body have a back and forth relationship. It's the mind is influencing the body, and the body can also influence the mind, and you can access the mind through the body. Which
Yeah,
is something
we're
that
walking
people,
minds.
we don't understand that.
We're walking minds a lot. Where you have our mind living in our body.
Well, and what were you doing when you were out running? You're
Yeah.
accessing the mind through the body.
Yeah.
You're quieting the mind, and all that noise and all that rumination, all that thinking, it's quieted because you're just running. Dook, 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 dook. And that mind, all the noise upstairs quiets. The cool thing about the breath that I've found that I really like, because I do breath work every day.
Every morning.
It's been fantastic. I found Wim Hof stuff years ago.
I love Wim.
Oh my gosh, absolutely incredible. Changed my life.
Yeah.
And what I've loved about the breath, it gets you all high and stuff, which is kind of cool. And the psychedelic stuff is not too bad. But the thing that I really like about the breath is that I learned how to do meditation and be truly mindful with breath work first. And so many people that I work with, like, Matt, I can't do meditation.
I know. I hear that
can't
so
be
much.
mindful.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let's do some breathing.
I'm like, just come to me and I'll
It's
teach
the
you
best
that way.
gateway, right? So maybe a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, and I don't want you to like, freely share some of your nuggets that are the most important, but maybe give us a little teaser of what breathwork is, how it works. We nerd out all the time on this podcast.
We do. We love to nerd out.
If there's neurology, physiology stuff, like why breath work, what does it do? And then maybe we'll go from there.
Oh man, such a broad question. But the way I see it is when we access our breath, we access our life. It's our life. It's the beginning. We come in taking a breath and we leave letting go of that last breath. And we don't connect breath to life. And then what ends up happening as babies, we are born balanced breathers. And then as stressors of life hit us day by day as we grow, we lose our ability to function because we're not breathing in a balanced way. And so we develop all sorts of things, sleep disorders, stress, cortisol, hormonal dysfunction, low libido, everything is connected to how we are inhabited in our body. And if we're using our breath correctly, deeper breath, deeper life, we are creating what is, in my opinion, a full body coherence, because our body, when we're breathing out of balance, our heart becomes erratic. And so I'm all about spending time getting my breath balanced and moving that in a beautiful rhythmic way through the body, finding rhythm again. And then our body becomes rhythmic, heart becomes rhythmic, and we actually slow down. Like whales are the longest living creatures. I think so. Some of them can live 200 years and they breathe once every 4 minutes.
That's crazy.
Because they don't need to. Their body's not super fast where you're like, it's actually not good to hyperventilate. I know that sounds crazy, but if we intentionally hyperventilate for periods of time, just a dose a day, then that's what slows our body down. So we're not speed walking to our graves anymore. We're slow walking and we're sleeping better at night, and our hearts aren't. Because what creates heart attacks a lot of the time is when our hearts are getting too much breath and we're not breathing rhythmic breaths while we're sleeping.
She's gesturing. If you can't see, she's gesturing to her belly, like the diaphragmatic breath.
The diaphragmatic belly breathing.
Which when you practice breath work, that's kind of one of the main intentions, is to change the body's neurological default breath.
Yes, so that when you're sleeping, it knows what to do. Yeah. It's not like
this really shallow
mouth breathing. Because someone's like, well, I'm not a mouth breather. I'm like, I guarantee you are when you're sleeping. And I guarantee you are while you're sitting at your desk and you don't even realize you're mouth breathing.
James Nestor's Breath, that book.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Everybody should read that book. Super easy book to read. Fantastic.
But also what people don't recognize is what Wim Hof is also a big believer in is after you hyperventilate, you have to do the breath retention, because a lot of these new breath practitioners are just teaching people to breathe for 90 minutes straight, and they don't back it with science. They don't back it with retention. They're like, okay, see you later. And then they're having these panic attacks and they're like, what's going on with my body? And like, I don't like to do it that way, because it's not necessary. And so the breath retention is what's the magic in all of it, because when you can build tolerance to large amounts of CO2, people think, well, CO2 kills me. It's toxic. It's never going to kill you. You're never going to hold your breath out long for you're going to die. But what happens is when you hyperventilate intentionally, the oxygen just goes to your red blood cells. It doesn't go to the tissue pH. It only goes to the blood pH. And so what CO2 does is it transports, when you're holding your breath, that CO2 molecule so that you kill disease in your tissues. And then it can activate stem cells in your bones, because we all are born with that. They go into dense places in the body. And so that's the science why I teach the prescription I do, because it slows the body down so that we're healthier and live longer.
That's awesome. Okay, nerd moment. So you're saying, and this is new. I didn't know this. Yeah. I've never heard this
Well,
before.
It can save lives.
That's amazing. So what you're saying is when we do the breath work stuff, because breath work is like breathing in more than you're breathing out. That's the breath work portion. That changes the pH of your red blood cells. So you're the blood
oversaturated stuff, your blood.
Right, with oxygen. So now it becomes acidic, correct?
Totally.
And then you hold your breath.
Hold it.
On the out. And then it's
called breath hold time. You want to grow it.
Okay. And then at that point, all the oxygen that's in your red blood cells gets
transported
to the tissues with CO2.
Yep.
But you have to do the hold in order for that to happen.
Yep. And so the way you can test somebody how healthy they are is you, in the morning when you wake up on an empty stomach, you have them hold their breath. 15-second breath holders, there's something going on. Like if you can't hold your breath more than 15 seconds, like this is for you.
Yeah.
Average people are from 15 to 30 seconds. Now I'm up to 2.5, 3 minutes holding my breath. And it's
just like cold,
you have these
breathing.
Mystical, magical experiences while you're holding your breath, because you're literally in emptiness and where people can't be anymore.
That's where I visualize. And I'm not a visual person. I never have been.
Yeah.
And so that was really weird for me when I first experienced that and held my breath and like saw visions of seeing myself the way I wanted to see myself. And then
it's a beautiful place to meditate.
That. Yeah. Oh, game changer.
It's like I call it just the pause on life. Like you're going underwater. You don't need the outside world.
Nope.
You could call it. Some people can think it's spiritually bypassing, but I think it's confronting, because all of this stuff starts to come up, like the shame you carry.
Yep.
I've had my biggest epiphanies in breath retention about like, oh, you've been carrying shame your whole life. That's led your whole life, It's really cool.
It is really
That's
cool.
amazing.
I've had my biggest, I feel like, pivotal moments changing my perspective on life through breath work.
So add that to your breath work.
Yeah. Oh, I do.
The retention he does.
The retention. Okay.
Yeah.
I do.
We do it every morning,
I'm just
actually.
making sure that the listeners understand what you're talking about.
it's freaking
People don't know about this. This is why I'm
yeah.
like, wish I could create a loudspeaker intercom.
Well, my
over the
first
world.
exposure to breath work was actually I worked at the prestigious Cirque Lodge, which you may have heard of. It's this really
I've heard of it.
that's where all the stars go.
Yeah.
And so I worked there as a therapist for a while, and they bring in this breathwork guy who's this really cool dude, and he studied, in India and all over the place, and in Africa, and he's got these different breathwork techniques, and he comes around with a didgeridoo, whoa, puts it on your chest. It's amazing. And I remember the first time I ever did breathwork, and I'm in this room. There's freaking 30 other people there. I'm the new therapist in the room, and there's all these freaking people that are really giddy and excited. They're in recovery, right? They're in the treatment center getting their treatment, and they're all really pumped and excited. And I'm looking around going like, where's some breathing? Whatever, okay. This is like 10 years ago. And then all of a sudden I started doing this breath work stuff, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really uncomfortable. My hands start to cramp up,
Yeah, that's tetany.
Right. And they started to cramp, and I'm like going like, and he comes over to me, he says, don't stop. And I'm just breathing so deeply. And he actually would have us do like a 2 in, 1 out.
I do all sorts of.
There's so many different rhythms.
Yeah, I was like, I've done that one.
And then he's like, okay, now let it out and hold. And all of a sudden, I'm tripping freaking balls. And I'm just going like, what is
It's the best when you get somebody to do that.
Oh my gosh. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, this client that I'm working with is having this breakthrough. She's 2 people over from me. She's bawling her face off, having this breakthrough, sits up. We get to the next session. I'm like, okay, so what happened? And she's like, Matt, I can't believe this. I remember. And we've been working.
That's what it's all about.
I've been working with her
so
on this
cool.
childhood trauma thing that she couldn't break through. And we're doing all these techniques and freaking EMDR and this and that and the other, all the therapy freaking tricks of the trade, right? And then she comes in after 1 breath session, her first breath session she'd done ever. And she comes in, she's like, I remember. And we worked through it. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'm in.
Yeah.
Jen, teach me the ways, bro. And I remember that's when I started breathwork, and I was hooked.
It's true. It only takes one time, because it was Caitlin who was like, just try her online course. Just try it. And I was like, whatever. Okay, I'll do it. So I got online, and I was shocked. I was like, okay, if this is online, what is this going to be like in person? And then that's when I started coming to the Sunday classes in person. And it's like, all of it. I still do the Monday nights every Monday. And I can't look, I'm excited for tonight.
I know. And I'm starting now. My next quest is I want to open my own space called For Her Dream and just let it be
Good for
a
you.
space for healing. I mean, we'll see what happens. But
So what would that look like? Like, obviously you're doing breathwork classes. Would you do yoga there too?
I'd have my courses there, and I'd teach maybe a yoga class a week. I'd let other people come in if they wanted to teach something. I just a wellness place.
Yeah.
And then I want to put my podcast in there too.
That's
and
cool.
just like make a podcast room and just like a lounge, like coffee, tea, just like a place for comfort for people that feel lost in the world,
Love
Yeah.
it.
But, ultimately what breath did for me, you can't go back once you know. And so it was a slow disentanglement of the narrative I was fed and the slow remembering. So uncover to recover, like of who I was, recovering me.
Yeah.
Can you break that down for us? That was a lot and all beautiful.
So just like, it's like, think about having like a really knotted like chain necklace. And it's like everything that you were told in your life, you like got all these knots up, you're knotted up in your body. And then you don't know who you are anymore. And like, it's like slowly the breath undid the knots one by one. And it's not through anything outside of you that you heal. It's just in confronting and healing the nervous system and undoing those knots. And then one day you wake up and you don't know how you got there, but you're like, I fucking love who I am. I finally remember who I am,
Because there's all these stories we tell ourselves, these narratives that we pick up along the way the knots, right? In order to deal with all the bullshit of the day to day.
You know your purpose eventually.
Well, and we're like cramming ourselves into these little positions in order to make these people around us
we don't
like
live
us
in our
better.
body.
Yeah.
There's no, I see more people not in their body than in their body. And it makes me want to just cry every time.
Yeah.
And people in their later in age are coming to me now and asking for help, and they just feel like their whole life has passed them by. And I want this to be contagious, not in an egotistical way, but in a way like how can I serve as many people as possible? Because we all need this.
Yep.
We could prevent so many things, chronic disease, inflammation, heart attacks, early heart disease. Like these breaths help your body heal truly with the meditation. And then I was going to say also the somatic stuff that I do too.
Yeah.
Just the movement therapy.
Oh, yeah. I love
with it. That's
Yeah.
why I created my own little sequence to add all the things that I think are necessary for this, to have the full.
Yeah, somatics is really cool.
Yeah. But the breath retention, like
it's my favorite.
not a lot of people are doing that because they don't really, haven't gotten the education. And I'm like, whoa, what? We don't know about this.
No, a lot of people don't.
I got to tell people,
That's
why you started your podcast. What is it called?
It's just the Abbey Daw podcast.
I
Just
love it.
because
Yeah.
I like the way my name is always rolled off people's tongues.
It is.
Abbey Daw, Abbey Daw.
I love it. Abbey Daw.
Abbey Daw.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, it's a unique name. Just call it mine. Yeah.
I like your shirt. You wear your Abbey Road shirt.
Yes.
Yes.
Very cool.
Abbey
Very
Road
cool.
shirt.
I love it.
Very
It's
cool.
cute.
But I like to be that facilitator that feels like anyone can come to me, not just like the green juice drinkers and the. I just want to be.
I love it.
I want to be there. You seem like that type of facilitator
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Who are you? Awesome.
Yeah.
Don't care about your background. Let's be humans together.
Yeah.
Let's connect.
Let's see if we can do some humanness for like a moment.
Let's
let
not
go
say
of all the
woo woo
crap.
things. That
Yeah,
are,
yeah.
I'm not a woo woo person.
No, but I'm open to that.
I am too, but
And
I
I've
just,
met some
there's a
woo
certain
people.
language that can
Yeah.
make you seem fake, kind of.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, it's disingenuous.
You're disingenuous.
Yeah.
And I think what happens a lot of times when we get kind of lost in, and dogma is such a weird word because it's not really what I'm trying to say, but I don't know how else to say it.
Mhm.
Because it's like I get in this like dogmatic blinders on, this is the way things are mentality. And I have a really hard time getting out of my own way because I'm stuck
Yeah,
in a
I can see
path,
that.
you know? And so my thing with people is just like, listen, man, like you don't know what you don't know, number one. Number two, like what if the thing you don't know is your breakthrough?
I know. I've had that happen so many times.
And then they're like, well, what would that mean? Like maybe this idea, and it inevitably, especially in the world, like you talk about these narratives, right? Inevitably, what ends up happening is you drill down and you look at the hard moments of your life and you look at the things that you're missing and you look at what you really want and you find out that the thing that's holding you back is that you see yourself as not enough in some way.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about me that's not enough. There's something more that needs to be in order for me to be okay. Always false.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can let go of that idea of not enoughness,
Totally.
then we're going to be okay. But I have to let go of that. And 999 times out of 1,000, that means that something has to die.
Mm-hmm.
A belief, an idea, a system, a behavior, a relationship.
Totally.
And I have to fucking grieve hard.
Yeah.
And I have to go through that whole grief process and cry and snot bubbles and create this physiological, just this shift in my body physiologically through this emotional upheaval. And that's why breathwork is amazing, because it can facilitate that process for a lot of people. And it's why I love psychedelics. It's why I love trauma therapy. It's why I love sports and the cold, because there's these tools, these practices, these opportunities that we have to create this moment of potential death where I can let it die so that something else can be reborn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I've just been so in love with breathwork for so long. And to watch Brindy, to watch you come out of that, I'm excited every Monday, right? I'm not excited because I got to take care of the kids by myself. No, just kidding. I actually like that. But you come out of breathwork and you're in a better place. You're motivated. We put the kids to bed, and then we have these amazing conversations, and you share with me what you've learned, and we edify one another, and we come closer together. And every Monday, it's been this routine. And then every once in a while, you'll miss a Monday, and we'll both be like, something's missing. Breathwork.
That makes me happy.
And
It's
that's
really
why I'm
cool.
always
It's
like,
made our lives a
Abby,
lot
did you
better.
upload the video? Because I gotta go do it.
I know.
I gotta go.
Sometimes I like,
No, you
that's
do,
where I
yeah.
struggle sometimes a little bit. I'm like, I gotta hurry and get that up.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So-
It's really it's
but it
magic.
is.
It's magic. And as much as magic, it seems like a word that people are, averse to but there's just stuff we
'Cause
don't
they're scared.
understand. We don't
And
understand. It's spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
and-
is so
and, like,
spiritual.
Therapy is expensive now, and we need it on this planet, but I've tried to also make it
Sure.
affordable for people so that if they can't afford full-on therapy, I'm not a therapist, but I'm a trained mindfulness expert, so I want them to have something to access to start changing their
Well, and
health
therapists,
and their
there's
brain.
a lot of therapists out there who don't really help people. I mean,
I know.
I've said that on this podcast many times. I'm a huge advocate.
I agree. I've fired
For-
so many therapists in my life.
Yeah.
And it's just like what if therapists were all involved in some sort of somatic
Yeah.
type intervention that was evidence-based, that they all used, that was a take-home intervention that they could use all the time. That's why I talk about the cold constantly. People are freaking annoyed with how much I talk about the stupid cold, but it's this very simple, easy to use intervention. It's very short. There's tons of evidence to support it. And it's something that you don't need anybody for. It's something that you do by yourself.
Yeah.
I love the
Breathwork is the same thing,
Yeah.
and you can have a facilitator, but you don't need a facilitator to do breathwork. Just go freaking lay on the ground and practice one of these breathwork things that you've learned from somebody
if
who's
any
an
of your
expert.
listeners just,
Yeah.
I can send them anything to get started.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's free, right? There's
It's free. I would
all
send
sorts
it
of
to
free
them for
stuff.
free.
Yeah.
Are you on Insight Timer? Have you done that thing yet?
No.
No.
I've done it before, but I'm not
Insight
on
Timer.
there.
Actually, I went to a training this last week, an internal family systems training. And
I love internal family systems.
Oh, IFS is the greatest. And the facilitator of the training, she is like, every therapist or every meditator, practitioner, whoever person should go on Insight Timer because it's basically crowdsourced meditation, guided meditation.
Do you mean like me being on Insight Timer and leading people?
Yes.
How do you do that?
I don't know, but she said you can do it. And I'm going to find out because I want to get you on there. I like to get a couple of things of me on there because I've done some guided stuff before. But people can go on there and get for free. And there's like, you can like follow people, you can subscribe to people.
That is
Insight
cool.
Timer is way cooler than it used to be. I haven't been on there in a while. I used to use it because it has the coolest bell sounds for starting meditations and ending them. But now it does. That's great ones. But now there's all sorts of really cool stuff on there. And I've used Calm for years because it's got really great stuff.
Yeah.
But Calm costs a bunch of money. Insight Timer is free.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. Anyways.
That is really cool.
But that way, you can go on Insight Timer and you can look up breathwork practices or yoga nidra, which I'm a huge fan of.
I teach yoga nidra too.
Right? And you can go and get these free, easy to use. Just put your headphones on, lay down, follow the instructor, and you're golden. And you can do this at home tonight. And it'll change your life.
So
Yeah,
much out
it's
there
true.
for people.
Or you could up your game and sign up with Abbey Daw, and then you're really going to get some life change. That would
I like
probably be
it.
preferable.
I
Well,
feel
because
like
one of our values that we always tell our kids is like, you have everything you need. And I would tell them that all the time. We also like left the church and that was one of my biggest things is how do I teach values to my kids? And that was one of them. And it, as much as you like tell someone as like, you have everything you need, but going through your breathwork class really made me realize I really do have everything I need. And I can heal things that like, obviously therapy's great thing too.
yes,
But with the knowledge that I have of everything that I've learned,
it makes it.
I'm able to work through it through the breathwork class on my own without somebody like that I have to talk to back and forth and stuff like that. And so it really has made me like really inbred that in my kids. Like you really are born with everything you need.
It's a really good thing to teach them.
Yeah. And you just have to go within. It's not out there. It's in here.
Not in no temple. It's not
Yeah.
in no. I mean, maybe for some people, but our temple
Yes.
really is inside.
Yes. Yep. And you can find that piece right here.
Well, we have
Yeah.
these pre-assigned conditions that we've created for ourselves that must be met in order for me to go within.
Yeah.
Right? I got to be in a certain place. I got to have this certain dynamic. I can't be bothered here. I can't be bothered there. One of my favorite things about I saw this talk with Wim one time, and Wim's like, "Oh, you know one of my favorite places to meditate? The street." He's like, I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll just go sit like on an electric box in the middle of the city and just meditate." People are like, "Don't think you're weird." He's like, "I don't care what people think. I love the sounds all around me.
Yeah.
I love it. It's not
He's able
distracting
to
at all."
meditate on it more.
He's like,
yeah.
it's a challenge, sure,
Yeah.
because there's this happening and that happening. It's random and it's unexpected, but aren't we supposed to be pushing ourselves? And I'm just like,
Boom.
And
that
I'm
guy.
actually starting
So
to
wise.
develop this meditation in my group that we should start dreaming with our eyes open instead of always closing our eyes.
I love that breath work that we do. In
So
the
that when you go
class.
on walks
Yeah.
or something, you're in a meditative state, but your eyes are open to the world.
yeah,
I sit in the mirror on
love
that one. Is that bad? I put a mirror in front of me. When
It's
we do
great.
that
Or
one,
you can
where
put a
we go like
vision
this,
board.
yeah,
You can
and
put
our
your
eyes are
vision board
open.
in front of
I
you.
love
It's
it.
like we don't always have to close our eyes. It's like we're here, like open.
Let's
just
see it.
be
What's that yoga word? Is it? It's not shakti. It's like where you stare with your eyes open.
Dristi?
Like, Tristi, that's the word. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
That's
the
cool.
point of gaze.
The point of gaze where you try to you intentionally keep your eyes open.
Mhm.
That is a whole
It's like a
nother-
soft gaze.
Yeah, it's like
That's
a whole
cool.
nother aspect to meditation
amazing.
that changes the experience a little bit. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
cool.
it's really
Yeah.
amazing.
So how can people get a hold of you? Like if they what's your website, Instagram handle, all that stuff?
So my website is just my name, Abbey Daw with an E in Abbey, DAW.com. And then I have a podcast, the Abbey Daw podcast. Everything's my name. Handle on Instagram is Abbey Daw. I do have a TikTok. I don't really post on it that much. It's Abbey Dawsome, but
Okay.
I just, you can find me there.
Yeah. And then
Email me.
this summer too, you do Magic on the Mountain.
Yes, I love that.
And it's such an awesome, awesome class. You do like a small hike. Like when I say small hike, I mean like small hike. Like anyone can do it. And then you go do breath work on the mountain, wherever we're at. And it truly is like magic on the mountain.
It is. I'm trying to spread the word of that because people really love it and they look forward to it every summer. We end around Halloween and we do it every other Sunday.
Yes.
So it's not every Sunday, and it's from 7:30 when the sun comes up till 9 a.m. I map out everything for you guys. You just have to show up.
Yep.
It's not hard.
It's awesome.
And they can
So-
sign up for that on your website.
Yeah, they can sign up for it on my website. Any one of your guys' listeners, they can have a little discount. I'll make a code if they want to get like
Okay.
$50 off.
Okay.
That'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
that
I'd
would
love
be
that.
I'll
awesome.
just have it be the name of your guys' podcast as the code.
Finding
Okay.
Strength.
Finding strength.
So
That's awesome.
finding strength.
Finding strength. I'll put it on there today. So
Great.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you
fantastic.
so much for coming on.
Don't you have a
Seriously.
retreat that you do also?
I'm
I want to
doing
make
a
sure.
retreat. It's one night.
I just don't know if is the podcast going to come out in time.
Probably not.
That's what I was just thinking
Maybe.
about.
but that's something you do.
yeah,
right?
you do
I
retreats.
do retreats. I'm trying to do just these overnight ones now where people don't have to commit to like a 4-day thing.
Mhm.
And we have a nice meal together. And then we do a breath journey with the retention
Mhm.
and journaling and a meditation in the morning. Just a nice time.
Okay, and that's
40s.
happening. We're recording this April.
It's going to happen
22nd.
Saturday to Sunday, May 18th to May 19th. But you guys,
Okay,
it
we might not
already-
have this up by then, but that's something that people can also because the retreat thing is something lots of people really like.
Yeah,
You got
I do
retreater
those.
people
Yeah.
who are looking for that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure
Yeah.
they know.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, and a
available.
book's coming out soon, so look for my book eventually, and
That's awesome.
just kind of start trying to spread the light
Yeah.
wherever I
love
can.
I love it.
Yep. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So are we.
thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you.
Finding Strength podcast is sponsored by Avantacool.
Avantacool.
Avantacool. It's a fun word to
It
say.
is a fun word to say. What is Avantacool, Matt?
Avantacool sells cold plunges. Avantacool sells infrared saunas. Check out Avantacool at avantacool.com. If you use the code STRENGTH24, you will get a discount of 25% off any Avantacool products. How amazing is that?
That's a good discount. It
It
really
is.
is.
Do you like our cold plunge?
I love it.
It's nice, huh?
It is really nice.
It's great.
Stays clean.
Stays
it's
clean.
perfect. Whatever temperature I want it to be at, I can set that, and it's great.
We love it. Worth
check 'em out.
every penny. Check them out. Avanticool.com.